You can go.
Okay, 5 o'clock. We'll call the meeting of the Master Facilities Oversight Planning Committee to order. First order of business, we have the July 13th, 2020 minutes to approve. I need a motion to approve by someone.
I'll motion.
Thanks, Sue. Is there a second?
I think Frank's trying to second, but we can't hear him.
Okay. So with the motion and a second, all those in favor say aye. Raise your hand or whatever we can do. Aye. Those against, same sign. Okay, I think the motion is approved. First thing on the agenda, we got Dave. You're up.
Thank you, Pat. Pat, do we want to? Is Lindsay on?
He is. I can hear. I think he was there earlier. Are you still there, Lindsay?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay,
Thank
you're on
you.
the phone. Okay, gotcha. Great. So I'm going to share my screen so I can kind of share some of the documents, if that would be helpful for the rest of the committee.
I'm trying to follow it on my little iPad.
Dustin,
here.
can you give me access to share my screen?
Yes, you should have access. And if you don't, now you do.
All right, can everybody see the agenda?
Mhm.
Yep.
Perfect. So I'm going to go on down to the part of the agenda to start off with. So when we met last time, one of the things that we were waiting on that was driving our discussion for the save is what our allocations going to be for next year. And we said that we would get that like mid-August, our numbers. This is the actual document that we were waiting for. It's from the Iowa Department of Revenue, and you can actually see it. We received it on August 25th. Okay, so it breaks out our monthly payments, as you can see here, and we get a payment in August, September, October. But we also, in the previous year, we are getting. You can see here, we do also receive payments in June and July as well. June and July, but that's based on the previous year statement. So we are getting a monthly statement. Then November is a reconciliation. Okay, we always get a reconciliation for the prior year in November. And that estimate is for FY21 fiscal year. It is, that estimate will come, we'll get that payment in November of 2021. And that's estimated to be $858,000 as represented here. And so what that is we get 95%, what this states here, the Department of Revenue is required to distribute to participant local option sales tax jurisdiction into all school districts, 95% of the estimated sales tax on a monthly basis. So all of this represents 95%. This piece, the 858, is the remaining 5%, and that's usually the settle up that happens in the next November. So, and when you look at that revenue, based on that revenue, when you compare it to FY20, the hard revenue numbers, when we look at these numbers based on the information that we have received, we are, and this is actual revenue we received, but we have not yet received, for FY20, we have not yet received the reconciled amount. This is our estimated reconciled amount is right here. Does not include the actual reconciled amount because that doesn't come until November. So this is using estimated reconciled amount. And you compare to our revenue for FY21, you can see it comes out to about 4.4%. But on a per pupil basis, how the state's calculating per pupils, you can see there's a little bit difference. And this is actually, that should be a negative 4.4%. Now with this cut, that should be a negative 4.4% because it went from 17.9 to 17.1. And the per pupil went from 1,059 per pupil to 1,018.90 per pupil. So you do the math, and that comes out to a negative 3.8%. So, so, you know, we talked about there could be a reduction in sales tax revenue about 5%. So 3 to 5, well, we're closer, you know, on the per pupil allocation, we're at, you know, about 4%. So we're not at the 5, which is good. So I wanted to kind of give you kind of breakdown how the revenue has dropped due to what was known at that point in time when they did the estimate based on the impacts of COVID on the sales tax. So Tim Oswald is here as well. Tim, do you have anything to add on the revenue side?
Not much at this time, Dave.
Okay, thank you. Any questions from the committee on the revenue side? Okay. So then we're going to go into the coverage level discussion. We talked about the coverage level at the last meeting in quite detail. And I mean, in coverage level, what that means is for every dollar of principal and interest that we have a commitment to pay, we should be generating $1.20 bringing in $1.20 in revenue sales tax to offset that principal interest commitment that we have. And that represents a 1.2 coverage level, or 20% more revenue than you have in principal and interest commitments. So when we're looking moving forward, we have done some scenarios here, and I'm actually going to kind of move to the actual exhibits that we have attached to this. We're going to be talking about issuing for Jackson, which is the next elementary school, the new elementary on the Jackson school site, then a third elementary and a fourth elementary. How that would impact our coverage level if we were to kind of go each year and do that. So let's kind of go to the documents itself. The first one is this represents all of our principal and interest payments that we have here. This is our total, okay? And can everybody see my cursor going up and down? I'm just making sure you can see that, okay? So this is total sales tax principal and interest payments. This column represents that. So we are actually in 2000 and so we got January and July. This is what we have paid. So if we issue some debt here for Jackson in June, by this exhibit shows an issuance of June 1st, 2021. At that point in time, when you compare our estimated saved revenue, okay, of $17.354 million, we're at an estimated coverage level of 1.39, meaning we have a 39% extra revenue that we're bringing in excess of our principal and debt interest payments. So that's how that calculation is handled. So for Jackson, we're sitting pretty good. We are sitting really good right now. We're at 1.39 and no issues whatsoever or any issues that we have to be concerned about at this point in time with issuance for Jackson.
Hey, Dave.
Yeah.
Dave, this is Lindsay.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not on Zoom, so I'm just kind of following along as best I can based on the PDF.
Yeah.
And what I don't understand is where you're talking about the interest rate of 3% and 4%. And so what's utilized in this assumption, and where I'm trying to tie that back to is the prior discussion that we had, because I think you guys were talking about the issuances being at a higher coupon than, because I was questioning the rates you guys were using. So in this scenario, explain the 3 and 4% that's showing up, and how does that relate to if we were to do the issuance today? Because in our last call, we were talking about what the bond buyers want to see in terms of a higher coupon. You understand my question?
Yeah, and I'm going to actually let Tim respond to the estimates that you used in this and the rationale for these estimates at this point in time. And we are talking about some different scenarios, how to address it, Jackson. But for simplicity, we wanted to kind of use this one to kind of document where we were sitting on a coverage level.
So this is mostly just a model at this point. We are going to input into this model now that we're kind of finalizing and ready to move forward with some financing. We are going to input into this model more specific interest rates, and if we were to do that, what you would see in the 2022 bond is interest rates that are going to be in the the Jackson bond. I said the wrong year. I'm sorry. That interest rates that'll be in the low 2% type range when it's all said and done. The other two, bonds in 2022 and 2023, I don't know where rates are going to be at that time. So we just typically use a 4 or sometimes a 3% as a placeholder.
So,
And Lindsay, I do want to point out, and the rest of the committee, we actually are only looking at issuing $15 million for the new elementary on Jackson. We will cash flow the other $10 million or so dollars for that project using current fund balance and save.
So I'm trying to still understand this, Tim, from the standpoint of, because you're saying that you're going to use a coupon of 2 plus something that for the issuance that's coming up. How does that relate to the commentary and what's showing up in our minutes of where bond buyers want the bonds at a higher coupon and thus will overpay for those bonds? You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, so first off, understand that I don't get to choose where the coupon is. That will be determined by the bidders at the bond sale. And it's possible that one bidder might choose a coupon structure using 2% and another might choose a coupon structure using 3%. But the model that I'm working on that would be an addendum to, or an addition to what you're looking at on the screen, we're assuming 2% coupons across the board, but the actual yields, for example, in 2030, current market rates would be 1.12%. 2040 current market rates would be 1.9, well, just over 2%. Actually, looked at the wrong year. So there would end up being a premium paid because the rates, the actual investor rates will be lower than the coupon on the bond itself. But I'm solving, so the table that you're looking at assumes a 2% coupon, and then I bring the premium paid from the underwriter back into the calculation as a source of funds, and we use that to reduce the amount of the bonds that are being sold.
Yeah, I just want to make sure people understand and we're careful because somehow it was being characterized relative to the coverage ratios. So, but I'm going back to the minutes, Tim, where I'd asked a question and, quote, Tim Oswald responded that right now the most institutionals would prefer to price a bond that has a coupon higher than the yield and pay a price higher than par. That's specifically quoting the minutes we just approved. So I'm just trying to reconcile what was stated in the prior meeting. And again, I'm not trying to get unnecessary levels of precision, but I'm trying to understand so people don't get a surprise at a later point in time on what the interest rate assumptions are relative to the derivative of what you've been talking about on coverage. But you're saying that we don't have any, as the issuer of the bond, we have no control over which way those bonds are issued.
I'm not sure I understand what the question is. I'm sorry for being dense.
No, well, you heard what I just quoted from the minutes, which were, quoting you from the last meeting relative to that, and then you just stated that we, as the issuer of the bond, don't have control over which way the bond buyers want to have a coupon, whether they want to have a premium or a higher rate and a premium that the proceeds or what the interest rate is. But what interest rate ends up being utilized is going to drive the coverage rate. And so I'm just a little concerned and hoping other committee members understand that there's not the level of precision that people are talking about in these calculations that are being provided in these coverage level projections for future projects.
Lindsay,
I'm understanding.
can I interject here? Lindsay, these are all just models. We have to use a model to do some estimates. And the precision that you're asking is there's no way we can get to that much of a precision at this point in time. That's getting way too much into the weeds. And until the actual bids, until everything happens, we don't know exactly how all that's going to shake out until you go to market. But we have to provide some estimates, and that all these are estimates. So I think you're going way too much into weeds at this point in time, Lindsay. And we're not at that point in time to be able to go into the weeds and understanding that these are just estimates. And that's what the committee should understand. These are just estimates, and these are only intended to be estimates at this point in time. Because you have to use estimates, because we don't know exactly what's going to happen until we actually go out to bid. And once that happens, then we can evaluate those bids when they come in, and whether they're with the coupon rates, what they're put in there, what their premiums, if there's a premium built in there, or all of that will be evaluated when the bids come in. But the questions that you're asking right now, we can't go into that much that other than saying, yes, as a word of caution, these are estimates to the committee. These are estimates. These are our best estimates at this point in time, just as a rough estimate of what the coverage level. And one of the coverage level things that we were looking at is, were we at all close to the 1.2, level? And for Jackson right now, it doesn't look like we would come close to the 1.2 level if we move forward for Jackson.
You've misinterpreted what my questions and comments were. You've actually validated exactly the point I was trying to get across, that these are merely estimates. And I fully understand. I'm not trying to get into the weeds. I was actually trying to counsel the other committee members to not put an unnecessary level of precision on this model. That was, you validated everything I've been trying to accomplish with the others. And again, my concerns were, what I'm hearing is that what coupons are today, and which gives me enormous comfort relative to the estimates that you're using on these various scenarios. But I just want the committee members to be aware that there's the calculations that have been done are point estimates, but do not view those as that there's any precision in them. That's my whole point.
Okay. So that's saying that if we issue in Jackson using an these interest rates as shown on this document, that right now, at the time of issuance, we about 1.39, and at the time of issuance, it would drop slightly to a 1.34 and start rising back up again. So that's kind of what it shows at this point in time. Now let's kind of go to okay, if we were to move forward and say the board wants to move forward with the next elementary, how does that look? And I'm doing this as a cumulative type of look to it. Say you still keep Jackson, you throw the next elementary in and see how that shakes out using these interest rates as we have been talking about. So when you look at the next one, if we issued on June 1st of 2022, and this one, we'll be talking about issuing 25 million, okay? And these are just estimates at this point in time. It looks like we would still be above the 1.2 and during the course of the repayment of these bonds. And I do want to point out too is we are also estimating a 1% growth in revenue, sales tax revenue every year in estimates to come up with these numbers. So you can see that using that model, we're at 1.245. Still above 1.2, but it's, getting a little bit closer to our low end where we want to be. So.
Hey, Dave.
Yeah.
So with what's going on this year in 2020, what's going to happen? I guess is it going to be? Are we going to feel this effect on the sales tax revenue? What in 22 is it or 21? We're obviously everybody's slowed down. The city's not getting, the state's not generating the revenue that it has been the past couple of years. Is there going to be a trickle down effect because of this? You think? I understand the estimates what we're talking about. That's what I'm just getting.
Yeah. We're still waiting because these are estimates that the Revenue Estimating Committee has done, LSA has done to estimate the impacts. And so we will be waiting bated breath next year too for the numbers as well, and to see how these shake out again a year from now to take a look at this. The other piece that we haven't talked about is that's going to play into all of our numbers is our enrollment. And we have to really watch our enrollment. So our October 1 enrollment count date, when we certify our enrollment, that's going to be the next piece of the puzzle that we would need to account for in moving forward. And so we're very concerned about enrollment, and until the numbers come in, we won't know where we're at on that regard, because there's a per pupil component to this, and we need to that's going to play into it. So now if we go to a third elementary right in a row, every year, you can see there's a year and a half where it's projected to be below 1.2. Okay. At the time of issuance, we would be at the 1.2, but it slightly dropped below. But I also want to caution the group. This is 2023. We don't know where things are going to be yet. We don't. Actually, things might. If our enrollment drops down, all of this discussion about when we do our next elementary, we'll have to have those discussions and how this shakes out. But yeah, 3 elementaries in a row. There's a slight, there's a little bit of a chance that we could drop a little bit from that, but don't believe that would prevent us from selling bonds if that was the true picture at that point in time. Is that correct, Tim? Since we would be above a 1.2 and we wouldn't feel like that would be an issue?
So we actually have to look out and calculate off of the maximum in any given future year. So we'd probably have to restructure some of the debt a little bit in order to stay within the 1.2 up front.
Perfect. But we got time to look at how we would do this. And one of the things that we have not looked at, this is still also saying 25 million. And one piece that we haven't talked about is kind of where we're sitting at fund balances and what can we do potentially if we were needed to restructure to be able to handle that 1.2. What are some of the other options that we can do? And we haven't talked about that, but that would lead us into the actual cash flow projections. Our estimated expenditures moving forward. And so when we look at these years, you're talking about 23, 24, and 25 fiscal years in these range, when we would potentially have the problem there, we would look at how is our cash ending balances being at that point in time to see where we would be at. So if you look at right here, we're projecting in FY25 ending fund balance to be at 5.6 million without anything for reinjection wells. But if you threw what we have for reinjection wells, you can see FY20 here. I froze that moving forward, that we weren't going to add any more into that if we were going to reserve any funding. But tonight, I believe we're going to be talking about estimated costs for the reinjection wells. So we may be able to back off some expenditures here. But right now, we're at a $5 million. We'll watch this closely. And if we might be able to, one of these issuance that we would do moving forward, we may not need to issue as much debt if we have the cash balance, enough to do that, to be able to use some reserve funds to be able to allow us to not issue at the full 25 million, which might help us deal with this. And one of the things that we haven't talked about yet either is we still have an issue that we talked about refinancing, and we're seriously looking hard at that piece to refinance our $56 million issue, which was we're prior to the issuance, obviously, of a couple of these other. Whoa! Shoot, sorry about that. Prior to when we would handle like these future elementary schools. So there are things that we can do before we run into this potential issue that may or may not be there in the future. You can see if we issue 25 million here, our second elementary beyond Jackson, all the expenditures would go in clear to 2025 when we would be paying that off. Completing the construction of that third elementary in the scenarios that we have shown. So that's where I was always looking at this ending fund balance of 5.63 million potential at that point in time. So, and that's getting probably close in my estimation. The 5 million range is, I'll start getting a little bit panicky if this drops below 5 million, our fund balance moving forward. That will get me a little bit concerned because of some of our other needs. But the thing is, one of the things that we could end up doing if we had to, property tax, our technology of $2.6 million a year, that might be an area that we have to tap into to free up some additional dollars to make that happen. So that's another area that we can tap into if we had to. So.
That it, Dave, for you?
Yeah.
Anybody have any questions for Dave? Lindsay, you good on things?
I understand what they're doing.
I just want to make sure everybody got everything answered they wanted. Anybody else? Okay. John, you're up on reinjection wells, cost and estimate discussion.
Yeah, I'm muted here. Yep. So I reached out to design engineers, who's the mechanical electrical engineer, both with our Pepple projects with Solon Lang and then on Coolidge and Jackson with OPN. reached out to Dwight there and kind of explained to him what we had going on and what I was looking for. So what his suggestion is budgeting $230,000 per well. We have 3 schools that need that, but we probably need 2 wells per school because there's 2 supply wells. So we'd have a total of 6 wells. So he's suggesting that right now, if we had 1.38 million, that'd be $230,000 per well times 6 wells. $1.38 million would cover the reinjection wells if you would ever need to add those. So if I remember right, we were at about 2 million something in there now. So there's probably some funds there that we're holding back that we wouldn't necessarily need to be currently.
Any questions for John on that?
It's good news.
It is good news.
Yep. How about some storm updates? I'm interested in this, really interested to see.
Oh boy. Storm update. So where do we start?
Right.
So we had damage ranging probably from $10,000, $15,000 to per bill at some buildings. Those would be the least on the small side of the damages, I guess, and then all the way up to good question. We don't have the final figures yet. We know what's in the tens of millions of dollars district-wide. We had somebody ask us specifically about Jefferson, and we believe we're in the $6 to $8 million range at Jefferson. Our high schools were our hardest hit. Kennedy was by far and away the most damaged building.
Hey, John, hold on a second. Is there anybody who's not on mute? If you're not talking, could you please put it on mute? Sorry about that. Go ahead.
No problem. So Kennedy was our worst building. We opened 26 of them today, all of the elementaries along with Roosevelt, Wilson, Harding Middle Schools, Polk, and Metro. Those opened today. I always like to think that no news is good news. Didn't have any questions, concerns, issues. So it was a good first day back. Our insurance company made the recommendation to hire a disaster relief firm. Precision Restoration is who that is. So if you guys are around town, you probably see a lot of them. They're actually merging currently with Interstate Restoration. So there's some interstate trucks here too. It's all one of the same. They've been really a huge relief. Obviously, when this hit, there was damage all over the city, and everybody was after restoration people to help rebuild, and so trying to even get building materials or rental equipment, drying equipment locally here in the city was impossible. And these people, this is just what they do day in, day out. They're here. They've got people down at the hurricanes down in Texas and Louisiana, so their reach is much larger than what we have. I mean, they had trucks coming in from California, New Mexico, even Canada. So they had, that just made things a lot simpler and got started a lot quicker because they had the availability to the resources we needed to really just starting to get the buildings dry out from the front end. So it's kind of a 3-phase process. So the first thing is they got to go in and make the building safe, get them dry. And that's really what took a while at Kennedy, was to get that building dried down. And then you got a demolition phase, to tear out anything that wasn't able to be dried or was damaged significantly enough it needed replaced, and then the reconstruction phase. So at most buildings we're through all of that. There's still some odds and end things here and there that need to be addressed. We'll still be doing it nights and weekends at the buildings that are open. Taft, I would say we're through the demolition phase and in the rebuilding phase. And Kennedy, we're probably, I don't want to put a number to it. We're kind of in both the demolition and the rebuilding phase there. So some facts and figures that I do know a little bit. Roofing damage, just based on the estimates we use year in, year out for roof replacement. We're looking somewhere in the ballpark of about $14 million of roof replacement. So kind of put that into terms that people understand. That would be 14 years worth of roofing that we would typically do. We do $1 million a year. So some silver lining to that is we're some of those roofs needed replaced anyways, so we're not probably 14 years ahead because there's a few roofs that were only a couple years old that we were replacing, but we're probably 10 years ahead of where we would have been in roof replacement if it hadn't been for the storm. So not that we wanted to do it in this scenario or in this fashion, but there is some positives that come along with it. I guess any questions from you guys as far as storm update? I've just been living and breathing this for the last 6 weeks, so I'm sure there's a lot of things that you guys might be curious about that I overlook now.
No, mine was going into the new elementary school. How much damage did you get from that?
Yeah, so there was 150 to 200 lineal feet of block wall that was 20. What is that, Joe? 28 or 32 feet tall. That was damaged. A little bit of plumbing work and electrical work that was within that wall, and then some scaffold damage. So it set us back probably 4-ish weeks. But thankfully, other than the rain last week, we had some good weather and they really made some good progress. So right now, they're still telling me we're opening the building in August. So one way or another, they're going to get it done. I hope they'll be able to make up some time, and you can tell just by the progress that's out there right now and the manpower that's on site. They're really pushing to make that happen. So it's good to see. Good to see.
That's good to hear. Is that pretty much your update on that then, on the new elementary?
Yeah, unless anybody else has any other questions.
No, I don't.
I got a question. I really appreciate the storm damage update. I would propose that the school district prepare for this committee some type of report, school by school. And what I'm most interested in is how much each school will not have covered by insurance or FEMA. And so, again, I'm just trying to not and realize their estimates, not trying to micromanage, but, it really ties back to the sources and uses of funds. And, I still have enormous concerns about tail events and that we have appropriate funds available, don't overspend things. So I think the school district would be wise if they could provide us on a go-forward basis, realizing the fact patterns are going to change over time. But I just feel we need something to understand the dollar exposure that the district would have that wouldn't be covered by other sources. And that's what this oversight committee is all about.
Yeah, that's something you can work on for us, John?
Yeah, obviously we'll be able to pull those figures when they become available to us. Right now, we haven't been able to gather all that information. There's still obviously a lot of work to be done and costs that are figured out, but when those numbers do become available, we can share those with you.
That'd be great. I appreciate that. It's a good idea.
I think it'll be really helpful. And, I was on this committee when the floods happened, and we got a lot of information. And then I was actually on the committee that met weekly as it relates to the ELS building. And so I just think that the more that you can, again, it's at a really high level. This doesn't have to be detailed, and it can be ranges. But, right now, we don't have any sense of what they, and I realize it's too early, but when the numbers start coming in where you have something, I think it'll be helpful. And then we can also look back at some of these kind of master plans of where CapEx was going to be spent, because there's an absolute immediate need. Schools have to be restored, so that's not an option. But the more that we know what's not in a range that's not covered by insurance or FEMA or other governmental funds that become available that are really going to come out of pocket of the taxpayers here in Cedar Rapids, we're going to do a better job on our oversight. So just kind of think about a comprehensive report, school by school, and have ranges for that, recognizing that's going to change way over time as you get through the recovery process.
Thanks, Lindsay, for that. John, next one on is future meetings. Are you still interested in coming up in the next meeting, possibly meeting out there just to see the site?
Yeah, I'm fine with that if you guys are good with that. Hopefully we pick a day if the weather's good. That's the only kicker with scheduling a meeting on site. But I mean, it's easier to talk about it when you can see it than try to explain to you guys what's going on. I mean, you know, the picture is worth 1,000 words. It's kind of cliche, but it's the truth. You guys can see it with your eyes, and I'm happy to answer and ask questions there. It's a lot easier than do this video screen.
I drive by it all the time to see the progress and everything, so I think everybody else might appreciate it.
Yep.
So anybody got any thoughts on that? Any comments on that? Are they interested in that? Maybe schedule it for the next meeting, see what the forecast is like. We can always cancel it, you know, the day of the meeting or the day before the meeting and just go virtual. Okay.
That would be great for me. I would love to see it.
Okay.
Yeah,
We schedule that, John?
Yeah. What's the date today? The 21st.
That's what I was just going to ask. When are we going to get for the next, what do we have for the next meeting?
I don't think we have one set. I almost wonder if we don't go the 19th of October. That would be a month from today. Or 4 weeks, I should say, from today.
It would work for me. I don't know what everybody else's schedules are like. Take a look at them. I know some people are in their cars and might not have access right now, but if you want to schedule it for that, I'm good for that, John. If anybody else has any issues, let us know.
What time do we want to schedule that for? I know we used to have meetings at 4, and I think we moved this one to 5 because of scheduling conflicts. What time works for everybody?
I'm good with going back to 4 if that works for everybody, unless anybody's got a conflict, just traveling or something. Why don't we go ahead and do that then, John? 4 o'clock again.
Perfect.
They should be off the job site by that time frame, and you know, we can meet there if we have to, if we can.
Yep. Yep, they'll be pretty close. They generally work till 4 or until 3:30 or so, but
Right. That'd be great. You'd have hard hats and everything for everybody?
Yep.
John, do you want me to pull up a picture of it real fast?
Yeah, why don't you, Justin? If you could, that'd be great.
Yeah.
So they started setting precast last Thursday. They have 1 day left, and then the precast will be set up. So where you see the excavator and the lifts, that's the gym area. And then we're looking towards the south. So the south of that would be the cafeteria, and then kitchen and mechanical room, all the way towards the back wall there. So
That's First Avenue in the background there?
no, that would be Crest Ridge. So
Okay.
we'd kind of be staying, well, we're like right above the building. First Avenue would be to our back. So in this area here are they're the pods. So the if we start at the right of what's built, that's a 2-level structure that will be the grade level pods, and then the structure right in front that we see, again, grade level pods, 2-story, and then towards the back of that or behind that, that's the kindergarten area, and that's actually the hardened structure, the storm shelter, tornado room back there. And there's what you see on top will end up being a mechanical room. So the floor of that upper area is what makes the storm shelter. So poured concrete lid.
I'm pretty sure that's about all I have, at least for today. The rest is video.
Yep. Nope, Justin, that's perfect. I think that shows just about everything. There you go. So then I guess the yellow plastic that you see, that's more floor slabs for the special ed and art rooms, art and music room towards the back, and then up front is kind of the final pod. First floor, it's the office area, and then second floor, it's classroom. So they're moving right along. They're doing well. If we could have a mild fall and a mild start to winter, that would help everybody tremendously.
Yeah, right. It's Iowa.
Yeah, right. I know. And I guess you're not supposed to ask anymore what else 2020 can bring, but let's hope that just falls into 2021 and then we'll be in good shape.
Get your bingo cards out. Start winning.
John, at our office, we have a pool going that's an earthquake in November. So
Fault line opens up in Iowa.
Chad, what's the odds on that?
20-1.
I'll take the under.
Oh, that's good. Any other questions for John or anybody else about the building? I don't have anything else myself, unless John or Dave, anybody else has anything to, put forth.
I'm good.
I'm good.
Thanks everybody for attending the meeting. We need a motion to adjourn.
Nope, we're good, Pat.
Perfect. Appreciate you guys' time, everybody else's time too. I know everybody's busy right now. So thanks. We'll talk later. Look for the emails to come out. Thank you, everybody.